Welcome to the Hilarity Ensues podcast, hosted by Donna, the queen of quick wit, and Jeff, the dean of devious double entendres. Together, they're on a mission to find the funny in life using nothing but their critical thinking skills and sarcasm.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hilarity Ensues. I am your host, Donna, and along with me on this ride is my co-host, Jeff. Yep, Jeff is in the building, and this is our very first episode, and in all transparency, we've been working on this project for a little while. We did our first episode before we had a name. It was a hot mess, and we were like, you know what, let's re-record this. Yes, great idea. Yes, indeed. So, like I said, I'm your host, Donna. My co-host, Jeff, and I, we've known each other for a very, 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 very long time. And we want to kind of dedicate this episode to kind of share who we are and why we're doing what we're doing. So, Jeff, how do we know each other? How long have we known each other without giving away my age?
We met each other in preschool back in 1999. And I had the Transformers lunchbox, and you had the Goldilocks lunchbox. No, we met each other in a very specific class for a very specific industry. I don't know if we want to reveal that or not. I don't know if that even matters, but we were studying for a pretty serious test, the Series 7. And it was one of those courses where they teach you how to take the test. And yes. I was in a certain firm. She was on another, from a different firm. And it started out as a serious class, but then it got very unserious with a lot of inappropriate humor. I was involved in a lot of that humor.
Yes.
Yes. Donna was trying to her best to distance herself from the silliness. She was very studious. I remember that. And then I saw her crack a smile. And I was like, okay, we got to let her in. We got to get her into the group.
I think I pretty much was like, okay, we can be friends when you had a T-shirt on that said, I'm butt naked under the shirt.
Yes. Yeah, that was part of the inappropriate humor. I was like, man, we're at work. Well, I guess technically I wasn't at work, but work was paying for it.
Work was paying for it. But I'll take even farther back, because after that class and after I left the firm I was with and I joined the firm that you were with, I realized that meeting at the class wasn't the very first times our paths had crossed, because we lived in the same city in close proximity. And I want to say we were probably less than 3 miles from each other at that time.
Probably.
And we used to go to the same gym.
Yes.
And that's when I was like, oh, I've seen him in the gym before. And we put 2 and 2 together. So
it's indeed a small world, as they say.
Yes, it's a very small world. So we started working together, and we've known each other now for,
25 years.
Yeah, 25 years. 25 years. So like you said, I had a lunchbox, kindergarten. No, not really. But we've known each other for 25 years. So why we decided to do this is because we have a lot of interesting dialogue on a phone or via text. And I said to Jeff, this would make like a great podcast for content, because we have the most random conversations. And a lot of conversations that we have, I think, are based off of just implementing common sense. Yes,
indeed.
Which I think, common sense isn't really common, because if it was, everyone would have it. But we do a lot of critical thinking. We kind of break things down and analyze and be like, how come people don't understand that? So that's what we're going to do. This is a show. It's friendly banter. I advise you to check your feelings at the door. It's not that serious. Right. And we're here to have a good time.
100%. It's just all laughs. I mean, at times it will get somewhat serious, but we'll try to find the humor in even serious things if we can.
So some things are just what's the word I'm looking for? It's like so tragic, and not tragic in the literal sense of the word, but it's tragic that people could be that clueless sometimes.
Yes, it's just head-shakingly stupid sometimes when you see people that just don't get it. They can't read the room. They do just all kinds of, I don't want to say the word inappropriate, because I wore a very inappropriate shirt, but I read the room first, and it was cool, but some people just come in just full, guns blazing, figuratively, and they didn't check the room first.
So as our friendship evolved, because we started working at the same place, once we became friends, and what are some of the interesting stories you have to share about working at that unnamed financial institution?
A lot of it was a bunch of people with either a good amount of money or a lot of money that had no clue what they were doing. And then when they lost the money, they would blame us. Like it's our fault that they were stupid enough to start trading stock XYZ because it was on CNBC and it was on fire. And they said, buy now. And then they buy it, it gets pumped up, then it gets dumped down.
Well, this was during 2000. And I think during 2000, that's where the market was really, you could have thrown a dart at a wall and whatever you hit probably would have won. So everyone thought they were a genius.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, I'm doing this. Do you want financial advisors to help you? We have technical, we have fundamental analysis that can analyze the stock. No, I got this.
Yes.
And then, people had all these shares heavily invested in Enron and Qualcomm and all the tech stocks. And
yes, that tech bubble hit. It was nasty.
It was nasty. So, and then things kind of started to contract, and here we are 22 years later.
Yes. Yeah, I do have a story. It wasn't a direct call for me, but it was our buddy, Chris, I guess we could say his name, basic name, Chris Schmidt. Remember Smitty?
Yes, I do.
He had the call. He had a call. It must have been like January 3rd or something like that. It was like within the first week of January, and it was on the Sunday because I worked Sunday through Thursday, and he did too. And then this lady called in, and she said, "What day is this?" And he's like, "Sunday." And she's like, "No, what's the date?" Well, first of all, know the difference between day and date. So he's like, let's just say January 3rd. And she was like, "Can you tell me why my January statement is not in my hand right now?" And he's like, well, it's January 3rd. Your statement closed like yesterday. We don't even put it in the mail until Monday. Like, how would you expect to get it the day after it closes? I mean, that's the kind of stupidity we had to deal with.
Well, we also, because you work Sunday through Thursday. I worked a couple of shifts. But one shift I worked a 3 by 12, which I worked Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And I worked 5 a.m. to 5:30. And I like that shift because most holidays fall on a Monday. So if the holiday fell on a Monday, I just worked Saturday and Sunday. And I got off early enough in the evening where I could do something if I wanted to, because I was young enough. I had that energy that I don't have now to do that. We would have people that would call, phone lines open at 5 o'clock in the morning. And they're calling at 5 o'clock in the morning. Has the Kentucky Derby started yet?
What?
Yes. It's just like the most random questions and I started to wonder, I'm like, do people call because they're lonely and they just want someone to talk to and they recognize we're there? And I'm going to put this in perspective here. I was on a top tier team. So the accounts that I was servicing, they called it, I was on a platinum team. So the accounts I'm servicing, these people had, over, I want to say it was $100,000 invested, or they traded heavily.
Mm-hmm.
So these weren't people, and probably was more than 100,000. I want to say maybe it was 500,000. But point being, these people had a lot of money.
Yeah.
So to call up for all these random things, or, and this is when, around this time, people did have internet access. I don't think it was to the level where everyone had internet access. So people are calling up and they're like, "Could you read this article for me on Reuters?" And it's not like, "Can you cliff note it for me?" No, can you actually read it to me?
Verbatim.
Like, verbatim. Like, I'm a licensed professional, sir. But then we worked with some interesting people too.
Yes, we did.
With some interesting people. And being that it's public news, Jeff shared this article with me recently. We had 2 people that hit the news that used to work with us. What's the deal with that?
And both of them had the same name, which was very interesting. Yeah, but Yeah, full name Randall. One went by Rand. I think they both went by Randy.
Yes.
And they both have the same penchant for certain activities that involve minors. So they're now both in prison right now.
Yeah, they were busted with child indecency. I don't want to say the other word but on their computers.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, didn't you work for one of them?
No, but I used to play basketball with the second one.
Oh, okay.
Seemed like a perfectly normal guy. I mean, I guess people don't, advertise it. They don't tattoo it on their face. But
they don't advertise that I'm a predator.
Right. Yeah. I would have never guessed. But,
there's not a t-shirt for that yet.
What's that?
There's not a t-shirt for that yet.
No. Yeah. And if there is, I would not recommend wearing it. Yeah, that is so wild that they both did that. And they're not having a good time in prison. I can guarantee that.
No, they're not.
Yeah, wild dudes. But yeah, I knew one. I didn't know the other one that well. Now the first guy, I'm not sure how well you remember him, but he looked the part. Like if you look up his mugshot, he looks like that guy.
Okay.
The second guy doesn't. Looks like a normal dude, like a little skinny hillbilly.
Hiding in plain sight. That's what they do.
Yeah, believable. Yeah, but thankfully only 2 that we know of have been into those activities.
Yeah, but the thing is that when you're licensed the way we were licensed, your criminal history becomes very public record. So if you've ever been arrested or filed bankruptcy, clients can Google you.
Right.
And find that out. So, well, needless to say, they're both going to jail. They'll never, ever, ever work in this ever, ever again. So not that you or I still are in that industry either, but
right. But for different reasons, of course.
For different reasons. Yeah. We exited stage left a long time ago.
Right.
To pursue other things.
Yes, pursue other ventures.
But yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, that's what you're going to listen to Jeff and I kind of banter about random things. Maybe we'll talk about what's going on in the news. We have an election that's coming up. I don't know if we're going to get that deep into that. We do have an episode where we discussed something relevant to what's going on in the world right now. But if we do, guarantee you, we're going to insert a little humor into this and kind of give you food for thought. Because that's what we want to do. We kind of want to challenge you to kind of utilize some critical thinking skills, laugh about things, not take things so serious, and more importantly, sometimes just stop and question stuff, which is what we do between the two of us. We go back and forth on this all the time. But I think what makes our relationship great is that even if we do have a difference of opinion, we don't make it a personal thing. Mm-hmm. We find that in this day and age, if people do not agree on political parties, they stop speaking to each other, which I think is absolutely foolish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know several people have done that.
Yeah, I'm like, since when is having a difference of opinion a crime? So that's what makes life so great, is all the different thoughts that people have. And some things you can take it, some things you could put it on a shelf, some of it you'll put in the trash. You decide what you want to do with it.
Exactly. So yeah, for sure. When we have a difference, we just discuss it out. I'm like, okay, you think this way, I think that way. No big deal. Yeah. It's all good. It'd be boring if we all had the exact same viewpoints on everything across the board. Anyway, that's a really boring conversation.
You know what I think what also makes things interesting is that people focus more on trying to change someone's opinion rather than just sharing why they believe what they believe.
Yeah, and you're not going to change people in most cases.
And no, people are set in their ways, but I think all we really need to do is just give perspective. This is why I feel the way I feel, and listen to why someone else feels the way they feel. And at that point, understand that your feelings and their feelings might be very different. And that's okay, people. That is okay.
100%.
Interesting fact about me, JB, that you want to share with those that are tuning in. You've known me for a long time.
You are very direct, and I like that. It's good. But some guys are not used to that in a woman, and I find it entertaining, and it's just funny. At one particular instance, I think you know which one I'm talking about. This is when we still worked for that company and we're at some get together. Was it a party or something?
I knew where you were going with this.
Yeah,
it was a party we were at. Yes.
And this guy, let's just call him James or JB. And I don't know what would possess him to ask you your age, but he said, "How old are you?" And you just looked at him, and you just held the gaze, and he just like got uncomfortable, and I was laughing, and man, that was funny. That was very hilarious. That it got really like quiet, and the uncomfortability just made me laugh more. It was so funny.
I actually do the long pauses really well to make people uncomfortable. But I do recall after that long pause, I said, "I don't know you well enough to tell you how old I am." It's like, none of your business.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Mind your business, bro.
Mind your business. Yeah, I've been told that before, that I'm very direct. And some people either like it or they don't.
Just deal with it. Yeah. I mean, that's all you can do.
That's all I can do. No, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I've learned that in my life, and I'm kind of okay with that.
Right.
So
that's true. Interesting fact about me.
Okay. There's a couple actually. Interesting fact. Ladies that are out there listening, Jeff is single. He has great teeth. That's not the interesting fact. But the interesting fact is, one, besides being intelligent, you are kind of what I call my real life version of Google. If there's something, you will delve deeply into finding out what the facts are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you take nothing at face value from people. You will always do your research. And so when you come to me with something and you're sharing it, I don't have to fact check it, because I know that it's gone through the layers of Jeff and his fact checking process to make sure that there's accuracy in the data that he is transmitting off to you. And his biggest pet peeve is when people send him stuff and they don't fact check it. And in his fact checking, he discovers how false that information is.
Yes.
If you want to see Jeff lose it, send him some false propaganda or something out there, some urban legend that, if you brush your teeth with certain toothbrushes, it'll cause this, and people are circulating it on the internet and sending texts. And he's like, why are they sending this crap? It's not true.
Oh, yeah, that drives me crazy. For sure.
Yes, it drives
100%.
him. But yeah, like, I can guarantee if he sends me something, I'm like, he checked it.
Yeah.
If I send him something, I send him very little, because this is a lot of work to do the several layers of Jeff that he has to do. So anything like for pure entertainment purposes only.
Right.
But if I do send it, I fact check it. And if I haven't fact checked it, I'll tell him I haven't checked it.
Yes, yes, you have. So that way you can escape the wrath of Jeff.
But, I don't want to get on the bad side of Jeff and his wrath when it comes to disseminating incorrect information out here. So
yeah, I've done that to several family members. Yeah, the people close to me. It's bad. That's like, I kind of feel bad about it, but at the same time, they should basically be checking it. At least look at it. I mean, some of the stuff I've received from certain people, one of them, that are just so off the wall. Like, how did you believe this? Like, what are you talking about? Like, here's one. Let's boycott, was it Exxon Mobil, whatever it is. Let's boycott this particular gas station because of XYZ reason. I forgot what it was. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to do this on this day, July 28th. Right. And I'm like, okay, using critical thinking. So what happens on July 29th or the 30th or the 31st? You're going to need to get some gas, unless you got an electric car. But it's like, you're not hurting them. If everybody participated for a day, they're like, okay, we're down for a day. You'll be back. They didn't think about, I didn't think about that. And I'm like, no, obviously you didn't.
No, you didn't think about the fact that you can go fill up the night before. So you don't have to go the same day.
Right.
It's like, when it comes to the whole boycotting things, I think people have forgotten about the boycotts of Montgomery, Alabama, and the duration of those boycotts. No boycott lasted a day to get anything done.
Nope.
A boycott is a duration of time, usually months or even years, for it to make a financial impact on an organization or an institution. Not a day, people.
Right. Yeah, they were several months. I don't know off the top, but it was a lot of months. I remember that.
I think it was over a year. And we're talking about people that walked. They said, we're not going to take the bus and we're going to walk. So
that's serious dedication, especially back then.
That's dedication.
In the South with the heat?
In the heat? In the humidity?
Yes.
True. Imagine that. Imagine you couldn't drive your car someplace for a month. We ain't even going to go Montgomery boycott period of time. You couldn't drive your car for a month someplace and you had to walk to get where you were going.
That would be miserable, especially where I am right now.
Yeah. No Uber, no Lyft, no carpooling. You're going to walk because the people you know don't have cars neither. So you got to walk.
I'd be so ready to tap out. Like, please, can we make this over? Let's make up some kind of compromise, please.
You know, so that's what we're talking about. These are kind of the random things that we kind of sit back and we talk about. We're like, what's going on here? It's like, what were they thinking? That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. And you were right. You know me, on brand. I had to look it up. Montgomery bus boycott, December 5th, 1955 to December 20th, 1956. So yeah, you were on point. It was over a year. That is an incredibly long time.
A long time.
So shout out to them for doing that.
Big ups, yes.
People today would not last.
They would not last. They would not. You know, every once in a while, I'll do like a social media purge or fast or whatever you want to call it, where I delete the apps from my phone and I don't log in. Now that I'm saying I haven't done it in probably a year now, maybe I'll do it. Where I do it for like a week and I don't log in.
How does that feel?
Actually, I could do it. It's not that hard. I think what we've come so dependent upon is that not really with Facebook. I think Instagram, because it's one of the ways that my kids communicate with me. And it's my kids that are not in California, they kind of check in on me that way. They send a message and they wait for me to open it. And if I open it, they know I'm okay. So I would just have to let them know I'm not going to be on social media. I'm not checking. That would be okay. But I can do that. I can go without scrolling. As it stands right now, I'm kind of disciplined with it, where the only time I really launch it is early in the morning. And then the next day, throughout the day, I'm not one that kind of goes through social media throughout the day. I just look at it in the morning and that's it for the day. But I know some people that cannot do that.
Right.
And they're so tethered to their phone. Like, I think I told this story before. It's happened to me a few times, but one day I left the house and I have a personal cell phone and I have a business cell phone. I left both of them at home. And my daughter was like, you don't want to go back home and get it? I'm like, no, I'm good. She was like so confused. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, yo, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not the governor, waiting to grant someone a stay from execution. So I don't need a phone. I'm good. And
a couple hours without a phone.
Yeah. And it's like, here's where I'm going to be at. If you need to reach me, call that number and I'll be good. I will say this though, because recently I've lost my phone for like a short duration. I was in Sam's Club like last week and I dropped my phone inside of there. And the funny thing is I dropped it because I had the card access on my phone. So I know I had my phone walking in, but when I was trying to leave to check out, I didn't have it. And I was joking that there's only really one number I know truly by heart these days anymore. And that's my oldest daughter. And my oldest daughter never answers the phone. So my youngest daughter, I know her number now. I didn't know it then when it happened. So the friend that I was with, shout out to Alex Exum, the one that does the really cool intro and outro for our podcast here. I was with him and I was like, can you call my daughter? And he looked at me. He was like, you don't know her number? I was like, no, call her, please. So he calls her and I said, could you just go on my computer, lock my phone and put your number as a contact? And so someone from the meat department called her and said they had it. And she contacted Alex and said, go head back there and they have the phone for me, which taught me a valuable lesson that day. I learned her number.
Yes.
So I know 2 numbers by heart. And I think that's the most crippling thing about a cell phone is that it puts you in a position where you're not exercising your mind. You're not looking at a phone number in a phone book. You're not dialing it on a phone. You're just hitting name and press send.
Yep, shutting their brains off.
Yeah.
I know three numbers. Wait, one. I know 4, I think. But yeah, that's still not that many. No. It used to be like 30 plus.
Yep. Because there's something about when you dial it, it creates the rhythm. I was talking to this woman the other day, and she said she wanted, you remember in your kitchen growing up, we all had one of those rotary phones, wall hanging rotary phones. She had one in yellow, and she was like, I want one of these. And I was like, when I was a kid, we had one in yellow, but there's something about that. It's like the motion of dialing and looking at it. Like I said, you're looking at a phone book, or you're looking at a number written on a card or something. And it's the seeing and the action of it that causes you to commit it to memory. Like the funny thing is, I don't remember too many numbers, but every number I had in childhood growing up until, I want to say 15 years ago, I remember the numbers I used to manually have to dial.
Right. Thousands of dials. Yeah.
And the reason why I remember my oldest daughter's number, she's had her same cell phone number for over 20 years. So there was a point in time where I had to actually dial it on an actual phone, and I didn't have it programmed on a cell phone. So I think that's what we kind of need to get back to, is committing things to memory by actions of exercise, seeing and putting things into action.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah, I talked about that and still haven't done that, but I will be working on that and get my 4 up to maybe 8 and see what happens. Guys, I still don't know your number.
I was about to say, I don't know your number, Jeff. I do not know. I do not know your number.
But yeah, practice makes perfect, right?
It does make perfect. So I think the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write them out and put them in front of me. I'm going to test that out and see how that works. I'm going to write out certain numbers and put it in front of me by my phone or by my computer and actually dial them off rather than hitting name and send to try and commit them to memory.
Yeah, I was thinking about taking the contact names off and just having the numbers there as an option, but still with the text, it still is like a cheat mode.
Yeah.
You need to dial them. Yeah, the thing is we text, a lot.
And that's the other thing too, is that very few of us own a landline anymore. Landlines, like you just recently, I want to say within the last couple of years, got rid of your landline.
Yeah, finally. I was one of the last remaining standing.
Yeah, so that's probably why 4 numbers, because there's 4 people that you would dial on that phone.
Yep.
So being that we don't have landlines, we have to figure out ways where we can sharpen our mind. So that's my goal for the remainder of this year, to add a couple more numbers to the noggin.
Yeah, that's a good goal to have.
Anything else you want to add, Jeff?
No, nothing I can think of now. But it's a good goal, though, to do the numbers. Yeah, I was talking about that with a buddy of mine back home. And he was, concerned about, losing it over time, losing your memory, just your marbles in general. And that was one of the things, to memorize numbers, memorize your credit cards, and learn a new language, just different things to keep your mind sharp.
I'll add one more thing before we go. I was reading, and when it comes to, I guess, mental sharpness, is walking and talking to someone. Something as simple as going on a long walk and talking to someone while you're walking.
Right. In person?
Yeah. Talking to a person, talking on a phone, but you're doing 2 different things at the same time. You're in motion and you're talking.
Okay.
The other thing, I said there was one more thing. I'm going to add another. The other thing, because we're getting older and we're trying not to look like the crypt keeper when we get older. But one of the things a doctor had said is that when we get older, we lose our mobility. So people have a lot more falls where they hurt themselves when they get older, because that 2-step recovery process, when you trip, like, you take a couple of steps and you gain your balance back, that diminishes. So one of the things that you can do in order to kind of increase your mobility and your recovery process in that 2-step is when you brush your teeth, stand on one leg and brush your teeth without holding on to the sink.
Okay, sounds easy enough.
It's kind of like there's a thing going on TikTok or Instagram where they have you stand on one foot, bend over, pick up a sock, put it on, bend over, pick up the sneaker, put it on.
I did that. I saw that and I did it.
You were able to do it?
I was able to do it.
I'll show off. You're such a show off.
It took a while. I got it though. But yeah, it was a little slower on one side than the other. But yes, I was curious to see if I could still do that or just do that the first time.
I can put on the sock. I can put on the shoe, but I can't tie it.
Just have to practice.
And one side is better than the other. But in an effort to work my way up to that, stand on one foot, brush your teeth. When you lean over to rinse your mouth over, 1 foot, lean over on 1 foot, stand back up. And so here's what you do. 1 foot, like your left foot, you stand on in the morning when you brush your teeth. Your right foot, you stand on in the evening when you brush your teeth. Hopefully you're brushing your teeth at least twice a day. So, and if you're able to do that, that'll increase. So I think over time, I'll be able to probably do the tying of the shoes, hopefully. Right. Knock on wood.
While memorizing numbers at the same time.
But, we got to preserve this case that we're walking around with. So, but ladies and gentlemen, hey, we want to thank you for listening to the show. Jeff, say goodbye to the people.
Well, thank you for listening to another, I guess, AKA the first redo of a Hilarity Ensues. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're on IG, we're on TikTok, and we're on YouTube. And make sure you share the show with everyone you know. There's something else, Donna, that I'm missing, but you have to listen all the way to the end.
Yes, listen all the way to the end so we can get those download numbers if you're listening on one of our streaming platforms.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Yeah, please share the show. Please like it. And we'll be back every week. Have something to share with you.
There we go. Thank you and goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Hilarity Ensues. Our fantastic music soundtrack is brought to you by TL Music Productions exclusively for Hilarity Ensues. Be sure to connect with us on social media by following Hilarity Ensues Podcast.